Welcome to Rico 12. I'm Justin B., your host and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. Rico 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism, sharing tools and offering hope from those walking a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences, demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. Rico 12 is not allied or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. This is Rico 12 speaker meeting number 359. I can't believe we're just doing this for so long. It's amazing, and I love it. Thank you for joining us live or on the recording later. Today's speaker is Candace B, who is a first-time Rico 12 speaker, and I'm so grateful and excited to hear from her. She'll be speaking today on the topic entitled, The Gift Wrapped in Pain. I look forward to hearing more about this message in a few minutes, but first, a few quick announcements. Rico 12 does offer a variety of recovery resources, including other podcasts, another live speaker meeting that happens every Friday at 8 a.m. UK time. That's the Afro-Euro speaker meeting. We also have social media communities to explore more, learn more, connect more. Please go to rico12.com. That's RECO12.com and check that out. I'll put it in the show notes here, the chat of the live meeting. And Rico 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us in continuing this mission. Thank you to all our spearhead donors, past and present, especially this last week to Catherine and Jesse. Your support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to contribute, visit rico12.com/support or check out the links in the chat that I'll be putting in here and also in the show notes of the podcast for one-time or monthly donation options. Every bit of support, financial or through word of mouth, helps us share these messages of recovery. Each week, we receive light and inspiration from our speakers. Their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us. And I'm grateful for today's speaker, Candace B. And she's already shared some light and energy as we were dancing beforehand to the music and everything. So grateful to have her here. Here's a little bit about her. Candace B has recovered through SLAA and CoDA by working the 12 steps using the undiluted message of the AA Big Book. Her recovery is from love addiction, fantasy, people-pleasing, and codependency. God has transformed every area of her life as she continues to live the work one day at a time. Today, her life is a living testimony to God's miraculous grace and guidance. Take it away, Candace. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Justin. I mean, when you were reading that, I was like, is that really as it is? And it really, really is. Hi, everyone. I'm Candace B from South Africa, a very, very grateful, recovered love addict, people addict, and codependent. I have worked my steps, and today I sponsor others. I just want to take a moment to welcome any newcomers that are here tonight. I don't know if you even know this, but you are very, very lucky. And if you had told me that when I had just entered these rooms, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But today I know that it's a true blessing as I look at how many people out there are suffering and have no idea and have no solution. So welcome, and please keep coming back. So my title, The Gift Wrapped in Pain. And for those of you who logged on a little bit later, Justin was asking me about this topic, and the best way that I can describe it is to say all the time that I was suffering and in darkness and my life was really, really unmanageable, I thought that God was nowhere to be seen. And now that I am where I am, I look back and I realize that was all God. So when I speak about the gift, that's God. So God was the gift in my pain. And as we go through this tonight, I'd really want to ask, or today or this morning, I really want to ask that as you're listening, if I don't mention that was a God moment, that you yourself think that whatever it is a God moment. So I was doing this a lot, it's the good feelings, that's God. No, I've come to learn that all the feelings are God. The blessings, the miraculous blessings, that's God. No, the terrible not getting what I wanted was really, really God. So I want to bring that theme right throughout this presentation or whatever it is tonight. Okay, so I've also got a byline here that says from obsession to surrender. And I want to literally spend 5 minutes on how it was for me, because I have come to learn through specifically the spiritual gangsters rooms, which I'm very involved in, that it's not about the past. However, I do think it's important that I do briefly mention it. So I was a codependent extraordinaire, specifically in the realm of enabler, martyr, people pleaser. My codependency reared its head in that I could only be okay when the people I loved were okay. And it came in the form of my parents at first, and then went over to my husband, and then my 3 beautiful children, and every other relationship that I've had that has been close ever since. So that's where the codependency tie lay. If there was literally like a thread that was attached from me to the other person, and I was attached to how they were feeling, and literally I could not function if they were not okay. So I had a very anxious attachment style. What that means, for those of you that don't understand, I would attach myself to people that were emotionally unavailable, because that was my drug. And in the SLAA rooms, we speak about something called a qualifier. Now, if you're new to this word, what it really means is the person who that's the bottle, right? If you're in SLAA, the qualifier is your addiction, your actual addiction. But one of my first God moments that I had was when we were on a 4-hour workshop and somebody posted in the chat and said, "What's a cauliflower?" Well, let me tell you, not only has this become a standard joke for me, but the reason it was such a gift was me as a love addict puts people on these pedestals, and I assign magical qualities to them that they have never, ever earned. Like, there's none of that was in them. And then I blame them when they don't live up to these fantasies that I have, and they really have never, ever been that. So the minute I heard the word cauliflower, I was like, that's it. That's a God moment. He's just a vegetable. And it took him off his pedestal, which really, really helped me through my recovery. So I've hit a couple of rock bottoms, but my last rock bottom was in December 2024, literally a stone's throw away. Everything around me in my world started crumbling. Obviously, my addict brain made it way worse than it is. But I do want to tell you a couple of things that happened. There was a delay in money that was coming in, so I couldn't pay my rent. So I didn't have anywhere to stay. It just so happened that at the exact time, my brother was going on holiday and he asked me to house sit. No coincidences there, right? 2 days before I was going to leave his house, I now had the money to pay my rent, and I was just about to come back home. And I emailed the estate to say, okay, I'm going to pay my rent today. Can you give me access? Now, in South Africa, if you don't pay your rent, they just block you. You can't get into your house. They just block you. So I got an automatic email reply that said, we're out of the office until the 2nd of January. So I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. In those few weeks that I was staying at my brother, my son was in the emergency room, my 9-year-old. He'd swallowed a piece of meat. It had gotten stuck in his trachea. At the same time, I had pneumonia. And at the same time, the person that I was addicted to was just withdrawing little bit by little bit. And the less I spoke to him and the less he was giving me, even those little breadcrumbs, the more obsessed I got with the drug, my hits, my high, my dopamine hit. So eventually, here's really where the God moments really start to come in. After I didn't have anywhere to stay, so I'm like, Mom, oh my gosh, I've missed you so much. I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. I want to come stay a few days. I was far too proud to tell her that I couldn't pay my rent. So I arrive at my mom's house. She's overjoyed to have me. And at the time, I was literally praying to a God that I didn't believe in. The internal pain that I had was literally, I remember thinking, if I had a picture to describe it, I would take my hands into my mouth to pull that disgusting uncomfortableness out of me. It was so unbearable. So the one morning staying at my mom's house, my cousin sent me a little a podcast, and I watched this podcast. Well, it was by Elizabeth Gilbert, who has written the book Eat, Pray, Love. And in that podcast, she said the words SLAA. And I was like, SLAA? SLAA, what is that? SLAA. And she said, everything she said resonated with me. Well, when she said the word SLAA, it was an out-of-body experience. I got goosebumps from the tip of my head to the tip of my toes, to the tip of my head to the tip of my toes. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember once, a very long time ago, thinking, when I get those, I need to pay attention. So I went on to Google and I Googled what that was, and I looked up the characteristics, and I was like, are you joking? Are you freaking joking? There's a big part that I want to rewind to. At this stage, I had been in recovery for 5 years through Codependence Anonymous. I was hosting 2 meetings a week. I had worked my 12 steps, none of which were based in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't even know where they've come up with any of those questions. During the time that I was in this recovery, I had my worst 5 years of my whole entire life. In a nutshell, I dated he was in jail, and he pretended, a complete con artist. He pretended to be in France skiing with his kids. He was actually in jail, and by the time I realized, I was so in love with him, actually attached to him. I had never seen his face. We had never had a video call. This is the craziness of this addiction. I fetched him from jail the day that he got out. Okay, so just let's go there for a moment. I had one night stands. I really was in my most active love addiction that I have ever been in my life while I was working the steps of CoDA. Now, one of the things I've come to realize is that on its own was a God moment. God was going to reveal to me what he did when he did, because I was ready in my mind, but there was a whole lot of experiences I still needed to have to be able to get where I was today. And I was not going to do that if I had already found that big book. So after that, I went to my first in-person SLAA meeting, and that was the day I really understood for the first time I'm now fast forwarding back, rewinding. Now I'm back to the present, 31st of December. I've watched the Elizabeth Gilbert podcast. I've understood that this is something like the sex and love addiction, not particularly the sex. And I was now really intrigued by it. So I went to my first in-person meeting, which happened to be on the 31st of December, New Year's Eve. I remember driving in there thinking, if there's nobody here today, I'm going to drive off a cliff. And then I drove in there, and there were 6 men. And I was like, oh my God, like this is an all men's meeting. Anyway, it wasn't. I was just happened to be the only girl. And that was the day I really got that this is a life or death situation. It is exactly the same as a drug and alcohol addiction. And if I don't put down my drug, I'm going to die. And I, the next day, went to go and meet my cauliflower, and I told him that I was addicted to him and that I needed to leave. And I sobbed for hours. And let me tell you what happened in that moment. He was cooking dinner and he was asking me, tell me more about this addiction. And he was like really intrigued. And do you know the actual words that came out of his mouth? Oh my gosh. Don't tell me that I also have it. And don't tell me I'm going to have to stop speaking to all the women I'm speaking to. I'm standing there confessing my undying love to a man that I've actually been in love with for 2.5 years. And he tells me that he's got all these women that he's going to have to stop speaking to. Well, in that moment, I was like, get out of here, run. Don't you dare ever come back. So it was a little bit more complicated because we actually work together. He's my business partner, but we'll get there. So, sorry, Justin, I'm struggling to see the time. Is there a clock on you?
I'll put a time up with 10 minutes left. So you've got about 15 minutes right now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I walked out of there that day on the 2nd of January. I set my sober clock. And how can you set a sober clock when you're in this? Well, it was setting my bottom lines. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's what behaviors make your life unmanageable? Where do I get my highs from? I started with about 10, and then I got the great advice to say just start with 1 or 2. So my sober clock started with I cannot have any emotional interactions with him. Any interactions that I have has to be through work only, and I have to put my corporate hat on. And that on its own was a God moment. Anyway, so then I went into withdrawals. Oh, my living poop. Like literally anyone who has been through withdrawals will know that was me dying. That was me dying. A big part of me was dying, and I know that's all part of this because we have to die to get to where we are. But the pain, the longing, the wanting to contact him, the wanting to, but you see, I have an addict brain, and my addict brain is very much not a chance in hell am I going to start my clock again. If I reach out to him, I'm going to start my clock again. And there's no ways. And that's what kept me going. Today, I don't even know how many days. It doesn't matter. But at the time, that was actually what I needed. And when I speak to people in these rooms and they say to me, what is your biggest, what is the one thing I need to do to get clear? I'm like, you need to go cold turkey off your drug of choice. And yes, it's hard, but it was honestly the biggest gift I have ever received. In that space, I attended a top lines meeting with over 100 women on the 9th of February. So that's just a couple of weeks later. And in that meeting, there was an amazing human being who did the 10-minute share. And she said, I live free today only when I follow the tools in this book. And I was like, what book does she have? That is how I did not know anything about recovery. But she had an energy about her, and I was like, I absolutely need to have what she's got. And a couple of weeks before, I had asked God, I had said to him, God, I need a sponsor. But oh my gosh, I was so clear on the sponsor that I needed. I was like, I need a sponsor who is experienced. I need a sponsor who is living the work. I need a sponsor who's got experience in SLAA. I need me. And actually, that's exactly what I got. I loved the 2.5 months that we spent together working the steps. It was the most sacred space. I know a lot of people don't have a good experience, but I loved it. And let me tell you why. I learned more in those 2.5 months than I've ever learned in my 44 years of being alive. Look at me. I'm so different. I would never have given away my age before. I literally loved it because there was no shame in me working through my 4th step. Why? Because in the spiritual gangster rooms, I could see that they owned their shit. It was like, this is what we've done, but now we are the most godlike space I've ever been in. And that's what made me feel brave to do my steps. I attended my first 4-hour workshop at the end of February for the first time. And I hadn't started my steps with the sponsor yet, but it was another God gift. I sat there 4 hours later. It was 1 a.m. in the morning, because when you convert the time. And I still remember sitting there thinking, what has just happened? Like, holy shit, what has just happened? I realized in that moment that the steps are not something that you do with your sponsor every second Sunday when you put aside 2 hours. And so the next morning I woke up and I was like, okay, let's go. Okay, I'm working my 10 step. Okay, I'm working my 11 step. Okay, but I hadn't done any of the work. So the next bit was hard. It really, really was, because I would go on to meetings and I would see people who had recovered and I was not there by any means, and I was really suffering. And I said to my sponsor, like, I need to go faster. And I was very lucky. She totally accommodated me. And I think at around step 6 and 7, I felt a very big lift. Lift of what? Lift of the suffering. Lift of the obsessive thoughts. The sky was bluer, the grass was greener, the air was clearer. Everything was lighter. I wasn't carrying that heaviness. So fast forward to today. My life today is completely different. God and I are just like best friends. Luckily, he's also your guy's best friend, and he doesn't just have one favorite. When I say miraculous, I don't even know. There's no words to describe how miraculous it is. Mostly, it's how I feel in my body. I feel confident. I feel proud. I feel good enough. I feel accomplished, and that longing, that neediness, that oh my gosh, someone just noticed me. That validation, it's literally gone. My work is thriving. The exact same work that I was doing before I stepped into recovery is just blossoming. But why? Because every single moment that I remember, I don't always remember, every single moment that I remember, I bring God in, and I'm like, he's helping me create content. He's helping me create everything that God is in. It is so much better than what Candace could ever have done, ever could have done. But there are a couple of things that were really integral to getting here, and I really want to just highlight these for a moment. One of them was my terminal uniqueness. I had to get over that. And what I meant for myself is I used to go into meetings thinking, yes, they've got that, and they read this and they do that, but they didn't have the upbringing I had. They didn't have the father I had. And it took a few meetings to realize, holy shit, my life was actually a whole lot better than a whole lot of them. So if they could do it, I could do it. So that was huge. And that I am exactly the same as everyone else. I am exactly the same as everyone else. I had to get that to be able to recover. And when I mean that, I'm not just speaking about people in these rooms. I'm speaking about my brother who I have had like a very, very volatile relationship with. We're exactly the same. Every single person that I look up to, every person that I look down to, we are all the same. So I had to get over that and realize, Candace, you are special, absolutely, and you are loved by God, but so is everyone else. So I had to get rid of the terminal uniqueness. I had to, also this is a big part, I had to put my past behind me. Oh my word, I went through a fellowship where I did another 6 of the 12 steps, and I'm not going to mention it because if I say anything negative, I don't want to bring it down. But again, it was all part of my journey. In that fellowship, I was made to believe that I was even more special. I wasn't made to believe anything. My perception of what was going on was to believe that I was even more special, that I was the chosen one, that I was the one that was telling the family secret, and that everybody else is just living a lie. So that was just another form of ego and false pride. And I've come to realize that actually that's what kept me the most unhappy. One of the things that kept me the most unhappy and stuck. And so after I had done a step 9 on my brother, literally in person, I remember waking up the next day just feeling absolutely terrible. And this was a big God moment, because he is like, literally, he will bring me a number, and I know that number means I need to go and read that page in the big book. And then when I do, it's exactly what I needed to hear. So what did he bring me? He brought me page 544 after I had made amends with my brother, and I was still begging for my brother to understand. Please just validate me. Please understand me. And I'd done the amends, and it still wasn't happening. So it's a chapter in the big book, 544, and the chapter's called Freedom from Bondage. It's a beautiful story if for those of you who aren't familiar with it. But I'm going to replace drinking with thinking. My thinking was a symptom. This is 4 lines down on page 544. My thinking was a symptom of a deeper trouble. I stand convinced that my emotional illness had been present from my earliest recollection. I never did react normally to any emotional situation. I was conditioned for, I'd like to say, love addiction by the things that happened to me in my childhood. And I'm sure that would be right as far as that would go. But AA has taught me that I am the result of the way that I reacted to what happened to me as a child. And like, oh, are you freaking joking? This makes so much sense. I was conditioned for this. And how I perceived my childhood and my background is what made me where I am or where I am today. And then I took me straight into, I think it was in a sponsor session. I want to take us quickly to page, everyone knows the story, but it's page 124. And it's the second paragraph. Henry Ford once made a wise remark to the effect that experience is a thing of supreme value in life. And that is true only if one is willing to turn the past into good account. We grow by our willingness to face and rectify errors and convert them into assets. And then further down on the same page, the dark past is the greatest possession you have, the key to life and the happiness for others. Literally, I had to go, right, how is it possible that my past could be an asset? And boom, I want to just tell you one last thing. I'm nearly going to wrap up. So I, for a business, I have a company called Grit, which, means resilience. And I teach people how to be resilient, how to face challenges. I call it the recovery program for people who are not in recovery, because I literally teach them how to not be selfish, how to help people, but without the recovery stuff. When I was doing this without God in my life, I was struggling. I got a subscription thing. It's on an app, and people subscribe every month, and then they do this quest called the Grit Quest. Well, in 6 months, I had about 8 people. Well, now it's over 100, and that happened in a couple of weeks. God said to me, Candace, you're going to start from scratch. You're going to re-record every single video. You're going to say this and not that. And because I had a full psychic change, because I could identify God's voice, listen, he tells me things and I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not going to do that. No ways. And he's like, okay, let's see how that goes. And then I'm like, oh, yes, okay, I'll listen. I promise I'll listen. I have learned how to surrender every moment, every morning, every single morning. Before I go for my morning wee, I have to be praying, because between my bed and the morning wee, which is 2 feet away, I will already start with my obsessive thoughts of what do I need to fix? Who did I let down? What? And then after, I have to spend like half an hour with my higher power. And then after that, as I go through the day, I really do try my best. It's not perfect by any means, but I know that living my step 10, promptly admitting it as I go through the day, that has saved my life. Getting into bed and looking back with my step 11 and meditating and going, what have I missed? That has saved my life. Noticing when my life is unmanageable and going, it's sometimes every day, sometimes a few times a day, and handing over the unmanageability, step 1, it has saved my life. And I want to end with just just one last thing. The biggest gift that God ever gave me was my past. Every person that has harmed me, every single terrible thing that has happened, I cry in gratitude today because I am who I am today because of that. And I pretty much am getting to like the person that I am. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Candace. I love that. Love that message. Thanks for sharing it. Turn this off before it beeps in our ears. The timer was going down to 0. Perfect timing. Love it. All right. So I have written down several questions here. A reminder to our live audience, if you have a question for Candace, type it in the chat. If you want to remain anonymous, if you don't want me to read your first name, just mention that or send me a direct message in the chat, and I'll ask the questions that you have. But what I'd like to start off with a little bit here, Candace, I love the realization you had when somebody said, "What is a cauliflower?" and you instead of the qualifier. And you explained that a little bit. When I realized that the person that was my qualifier all of a sudden became less than what I had put them on this pedestal for. Talk to us a little bit more about that shift of perspective and how you even now call that person your cauliflower.
Okay, I'd love to. So, I have realized that anything that I obsess about, anything that consumes my thoughts, anything that I give too grand qualities is what I'm making my higher power. And so absolutely they need to come off their pedestal because I'm not on a pedestal and I don't want to put them on a pedestal. It's like I worshipped my qualifier. And so taking them off that pedestal and realizing, I joke that he's a vegetable because he really is a good human being. But yes, it was very important it was a gift because it made me realize it's not just him. It was money that I put on a pedestal. It was whatever I was thinking, obsessing about, I had made my higher power, and it needed to be brought down to earth so that my higher power could be that.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform. Yeah, thank you for walking through that. Beautiful. And back to the topic, and the thing that you shared at the beginning, God was in the pain. So often I've heard, and I've thought this before actually, is, in a world of so much suffering, how could there be a loving God in all of this? Tell me about that shift from realizing that, in the pain, God was actually there. What does that look like, and how did you make that shift?
Great question. I think a big part of this is that I've come to realize that I can't understand it all. And when I do try to understand it all, I'm playing God again. So when I look at the unfairness in the world of poverty or, I don't know, like just real suffering, I notice that I feel terrible and I hand that right over. And I know without a shadow of a doubt in my core that God is running the show and that he is in charge. And so whatever that is part of the divinity. And so every single thing, I don't even want to say it happens for a reason. I would like to say every single thing that happens is for my higher good. And so when if it's something terrible, it's because God's directing me. And that sometimes feels like a lot of pain. And only when I get through the pain can I actually see that.
Yeah, I want to stay here with this God topic for a minute because you also said I found myself praying to a God I didn't believe in. Did you have like a white light moment sort thing, or how did that change from praying to a God you don't believe in to all of a sudden God is in every aspect of your life, your business and everything else, you try and bring God into that?
No, great. Another great question. I'm going to stop saying it's a great question, but they're all great questions. I grew up in a very strict religion, which I didn't mention, but because of that, the God that I believed in was terrible, judgmental, punishing, like really abusive at, again, my perception. That's not what everybody thinks in that religion. And because of that, when people said to me, you got to trust God, I was like, not a living hell am I going to trust God. And they're like, no, you got to trust God. But when I stepped into the rooms of people that were, in my opinion, the most God-like, and what I mean by that is they were looking at themselves every single day. They were owning their shit. And every day they just wanted to be better than the day, like every single day, they just wanted to be better and better. I looked at that and I was like, that is the most godlike. That is what I want to believe in. I did do something that I wrote out. If I did believe in a God, what would that look like? So specific characteristics that my higher power had to have. And there were things like no punishing, like that couldn't be in, like at all. Forgiveness, unconditional love, a sense of humor. And actually, a dirty sense of humor is actually what my higher power has. And so when I wrote it out, then I could start to look for all the moments that God is that in my life. And, I often say to people, because they look at me and they're like, what? Like, I want that. Like, just give it to me. I'm like, it's already there. I'm like, the fact that I'm speaking to you and telling you this right now, that is God. Stop trying to look for it. It's in every single moment, every single day. And then as I was going along, I would realize, oh my gosh, this is miraculous. So it would be things like, I tried to do this all my life and I couldn't, and now it's happening on its own. There has to be something bigger than me. Like I tried for all my life and it didn't work, and now it is working. And then also the 4-hour workshop that showed me, actually, I'll never forget, Purdy was doing the step 3. And he was 2 or 3, and he was like, the whole the whole 4-hour workshop is just so God-centered. Goosebumps the whole way. And Candace, you don't make the sunrise. You don't make the sunset. You don't decide who lives, and you don't decide who dies. There must be something bigger. And so it was the willingness. And then one more thing, it was like, I don't have to have this all figured out. And my sponsor helped me to realize it's a journey and it's going to develop into stronger relationship. But this is the beginning. So I was really willing. I think willingness was my biggest thing.
Yeah. And, I'm going to dig right back into this God thing because for whatever reason, it's there and it needs to be dug out. You said, when you're making the list of characteristics of what your God had to be, I think the first thing you mentioned, cannot be punishing. Now, how do you take that perspective shift from the pain and the suffering and the things the hard things that we've talked about in your life and say, you know what? That's not really a punishment. I'm not a victim in this. This is something that's a lesson. How do you make that perspective shift? That's just a massive one.
I've realized that the minute I notice I've done something and I own it, everything shifts. So it's like one moment and it's finished. That's how I know there's no prolonging of the suffering of beating myself up, self-loathing, self-criticism. And I get this a lot through my 11th step, because I'll be like, oh, I can't believe I did that again. And then my daughter will walk in the room and be like hilariously funny. And we're laughing our heads off. And I'm like, you see, like the God I believe in, it's over with. Like there's nothing about this that is punishing. That came from how I was raised. And people, after I was punished, it went on for another 3 hours of stonewalling and gaslighting and all of that, because I really had to feel that I'd done something wrong. But really, like, and God doesn't, I mean, God knows I'm going to do it. Like, he knows what lessons I need to learn. Why would he punish me if he knows that he's going to? And also, I'm sorry, I don't want to wake up in the morning believing that God is going to punish me, because then I'm not going to love him, right?
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. Thank you. Thank you, Candace. All right. We have an anonymous question that came in here. Question is, did you find God deep down within yourself, or did you find God outside of yourself? Can you talk about that?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think my God came into my life through my sponsor, and my sponsor had a very solid foundation of God. And so it was modeled to me, and I really saw that it was inside of me, and that it was not outside of me ever. Yes, it's in the beautiful sunrise, but it's in me that I'm noticing that, and that I'm seeing that. And really what I got was that God is not sometimes there and sometimes not. God is there all the time, 24/7, 365.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Next question comes from Raj from our live audience. Raj says, what does your daily routine look like today compared to what it looked like in active addiction? Is there more self-love to help with dealing with the painful moments? Yeah. So yeah, what did that change happen? You know, if you look back a year ago in active addiction and today, what does that daily routine look like?
Oh, this is so good. It's exactly the same. Okay, so I've always woken up at 4 a.m. and spent 2 hours on my mind. For the last 5 years, I have done that. However, nothing I tried worked. So I would do a gratitude list. I would do a meditation. I would do a breath work. I would do exercise for 2 hours before I woke my kids up at 6 a.m. And God was not in any of it. And so now I do the exact same thing, but God is in it. So the gratitude is not a list I write. I literally cry with real tears, like real gratitude tears. The breath work is fantastic, because God is my breath. Like, that's my life force. So the same routine, except what I was trying that didn't work, it absolutely works now.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform. I love that. And I find something similar in my own life. You know, I've always tried to do certain things, and it seemed to not work, you know, whether it was prayer, whether it was meditation, whatever it was. And then when I actually made conscious contact with my higher power, all of a sudden those same things bore fruit. All of a sudden it worked, even though it didn't work before. I love that. All right, next question comes from Kate from our live audience. Kate says, were you at all able to pull out the actual lessons of your past experience that were being sent to you from your higher power in the moment? Now, this is referring back to you were five years in program before you were introduced to the big book. So you're in program. Were you able to pull out higher power in the moment then because you're in program, even though you were still actively sick?
Mm-hmm. So because I had a company called Grit, which means resilience, what I was teaching to people is everything happens for a reason. And when you're on the brink of a breakdown, it's actually the brink of a breakthrough. And I knew all of that intellectually. So I would search for the gift. And I call it gift disguised in poop. This is something that I have almost like, I say, it looks like poop, it smells like poop. You don't want to touch it, you don't want to smell it. In other words, that's the challenge, right? And I'm like, but if you can just wade through the shit, you will find the gift. And so, yes, I did used to search for the gift, and sometimes it was revealed and sometimes it wasn't. I didn't realize that was my higher power.
Yeah, this is good. Love that. So this next question comes from Joanna, and this is something that I actually had down to ask you also. So we're on the same wavelength, Joanna. Thank you for asking this. What does surrender look like to you, Candace? She says, I realized today I had not surrendered and am struggling with the concept in putting this into action. So talk to us about the surrender process in your life.
So it is honestly one of the hardest things I've had to do, and I have to keep. So the minute I surrender everything, in other words, God, this is too much for me. God, I am petrified. God, but like earnestly handing over in detail whatever it is I'm struggling with, and then forgetting about it. Like forgetting about it. That's how I know I've surrendered. If I'm still thinking about it, if I'm still trying to fix it, if I'm still trying to look for the answer even, then it means that I'm still playing God. And my God box has been a huge part of that. I write down whatever I'm wanting to surrender. I say the serenity prayer. I put it in the box and I'm like, this is yours. Like, this is yours. You can take it. I don't want it. And then it's to just notice when I take back the control, because then I'm out of surrender again. And you know what? I was overthinking it. It's that easy. It's hand it over and forget about it. Throw yourself into recovery, get onto a meeting, go help somebody, bake a freaking cake. I don't care what you do. Forget about it, because then that is a real surrender. Just let it go. And it's not like let it go as in, whatever we think that's weak. It's let it go because I can't do this. This is your job.
Beautiful. Love that. All right. Next question. We're getting some great questions from our live audience today. Thank you all for your participation. This comes from Yossi. Yossi says, how do you know if in a relationship, if it's healthy or not? Now, as you're going through, you've been in CoDA, you've been in SLAA, and this person says, even if the person who may be healthy or not healthy is someone in program with you, how do you know, how do you make that distinction?
It's so hilarious. I met somebody literally 2 weeks ago, and oh my gosh, like it is, when I tell you, it's the complete opposite. How do you know it's healthy? It's the complete opposite of anything, if you're a love and sex addict, anything you've ever done or seen or experienced in your whole entire life. It is calm. God is in it. That's a big thing. When I say I met somebody, like literally, I've seen him twice, and we maybe message each other once a day. That's how I know it's healthy. I do not have that excitement, that dopamine hit, that, oh my God, when am I going to see him? I don't have that going on at all. And I don't know who this is, and I don't know if it's going to be a relationship. But I am noticing that healthy is somebody who is calm and stable, and that I'm not attaching to, and that I'm not getting the drugstore hit from, which makes me not attracted to them, by the way. So healthy is generally the people you're not attracted to until such time as God has helped me to work through that. When I was doing my CoDA steps the first time, one of the questions is, what does a healthy relationship look like to you? And I still remember thinking, like, I have no clue. I don't have any models of it, not aunties, uncles, mothers, fathers. I didn't have a go-to person. But I really have realized that it's the opposite of what my addiction looked like. And as soon as there's excitement, it's a big red flag.
I have sent her a quick message. Let's see if
I'm back.
Oh, good. Candace, welcome back. We're happy to have you back. All right. So you were just sharing about the healthy and the unhealthy relationship and just lost you in the middle of that. So Is there anything else you want to share about that?
If you are a love addict and you've never experienced a healthy relationship, it's everything that's opposite of what feels exciting and inconsistent and like drugstore in my head.
Beautiful. And I'm glad you were able to get back in here. And I still have a couple questions I really want to get to here. And in fact, this next one. So Candace, this one is one that the addict in my head, when you said it, I went, I want to get her perspective on this because it sounds a little bit different than my experience. And that doesn't mean it's your experience, but it sounds different than my experience. So I want a deeper explanation on your part. You said, if I'm a sex and love addict, and then you said, not necessarily the sex, but the love. Talk to me about the difference in that and how you differentiate that in your own life and your own experience.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't obsessed with sex ever. Like, it wasn't where I went to get my highs. I hardly thought about it. It wasn't the thing that was making my life unmanageable. It was not my drugstore. Like, if I had it, great. If I didn't have it, it was also great. Like, it was not the thing that I was obsessing about. The obsession of the mind did not come through sex at all. It was much more the fantasy, the validation, the person. Like, literally, I snorted people. And I could only be calm when I was with that addiction. Literally, like I had taken drugs or alcohol. So when people say, like, I had somebody the other day say to me, you can't be in these SLAA rooms because you're not addicted to sex. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I thought about it. I'm like, I'm really not addicted to sex. Like, really, really, that is not my obsession. It isn't.
Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead. No, that's good and helpful. I really appreciate you diving into that. So let's talk a little bit about withdrawals. You said I snort people. Talk about the withdrawals from people and from process addictions. I mean, I've heard from people like, no, you can't go through DTs or withdrawals from these process addictions. But tell me more about your experience with that.
Okay, so really, it was a physical, mental, and emotional pain where I thought I was dying for about 14 days. There's whole documents on this in the SLAA rooms of this is what happens to you when you go through withdrawals from drugs and alcohol. And physiologically, this is what happens to your body when you go through withdrawals from another human being, because we have the drugstore in our head. It's not outside of us. So when I understood that, it helped me so much because I knew I had to get through it to clear my head so that I could do my steps. Until then, it was blurry. I didn't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, these are powerful examples and a share. Thank you very much. Before we start wrapping this up, are there any other words of wisdom or things that you'd like to share with us?
Okay. God, are there any words of wisdom? Just that, like, the more dedicated you are to the process, the less you avoid the uncomfortable, the quicker the suffering will be relieved. And just to notice and to throw the biggest gift I ever did was to like literally an A+ work ethic is what I put into my recovery. And that is why I'm sitting here where I am today, living a very, very different life. And and then lastly, if you have not gone through the steps, you have to, it's in 2 sleeps. On Sunday night is our next 4-hour, 12-step workshop. And if you've never been through the steps, you have to get onto that so that you can understand them Because when those pieces of the puzzle fit together, you're like, holy shit, why is not every single person on this planet working through a 12-step program?
Yeah, thank you for reminding us. I put that in the chat here for anybody who has not done that 12-step in 4 hours workshop. It is coming up this Sunday. I've got the link there. You can check it out, see what time it starts in your neck of the woods. And man, you know, I have attended and I've presented in this meeting before, and it is well worth the 4 hours to do, you know, a couple times a year. It's well worth it. So check it out. Candace, so thank you so much for your willingness to share. This has been a very powerful and good RICO 12 speaker meeting. If anybody out there still has more questions that you'd like to ask, please consider joining our WhatsApp community. Post those questions in there. We'll have the community answer that. If anybody would like to get in contact with Candace, do you mind if they email me, Candace, and I can connect them with you? All right. So, yeah. So send an email to rico12pod@gmail.com. That's RECO12POD@gmail.com. And I can get you connected with Candace. And if you out there haven't yet written a review or rated the podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please consider doing so. It's a powerful way to help us work our Step 12 and share this recovery message with others. Next Friday, we will be hearing from Just Joe, a first-time RICO 12 speaker. His topic will be called Outcast No More, A Leper's Work Begins. And I'm excited to hear about this. I know a little bit about his story, but I'm excited to hear more. So stay tuned on our WhatsApp group. Get on our email list if you aren't already on there. You can get subscribed same way. Send me an email. I'll get you on the list. Now let's wrap up. You got that cool version of the Serenity Prayer available, Candace, that you'd like to say for us?
I do, absolutely. Thank you, Justin. And thank you for tonight and this beautiful opportunity. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Grant me patience with changes that take time, appreciation for all that I have, tolerance for those with different struggles, and the strength to get up and try again one day at a time.
Beautiful. Love that prayer. Thank you, Candace. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back. And when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight. Still searching for glimmers of light. Feet still on the ground. I can still be found. Standing still.
My wings are torn and tattered, but I know I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered, I may not rise too high.
Recorded in the book of life and bind it with the seal.